Hello, my name is Jeff Hildebrand. I've created this video for TBL traders. I'm going to look at creating a trading routine today. I hope you enjoy the video. Everybody says you have to have a trading routine, a trading diary. That is completely true, but a trading routine is not a trading diary. Your trading diary will take on a life of its own and correspond pretty much to how you trade. So I'm going to speak specifically about the routine and assume that you keep a diary with your trades in it. It is critical. Don't ignore it. It's tempting and it's hard to create one. It's harder than it sounds. I'm going to speak about my trading routine today and give you some ideas of how my day unfolds, and that may help you. First thing I do is dig into macro news and macro info. I do this before the markets open. In my case, I'm in France, I'm in Europe, so I am up before the US markets open, which helps me. You should do the same if you're in the US. It will completely depend on which markets you trade. I trade the US and European markets, so for me, I pick up the macro information, macro news before the US opens, and then I obviously follow it over the course of the day. One thing happened very interesting today, which I wanted to point out. Mario Draghi spoke. This is a good example of a macro event that happens, and you have to be aware of this in your trading because it affects, obviously it affects the behavior of your whatever your products happen to be. I'm drawing this on the screen right now to give you an idea. The U.S. markets opened about here, 9:30. They were in a downward trend at that point, and then they just pulled right back up. So Mario Draghi started speaking around here. The markets were thrilled. The futures, this is the futures market. The future markets were thrilled, and they sort of realized that what he was saying wasn't really very interesting. Started falling, and then it just has been continuing on its upward trend today. So this is a good example to be aware of because this volatility and this range here is a pretty good example of what happens during a benign European ECB announcement. They look sort of similar to a Fed announcement, but you have to be aware based on whatever product it is. In this case, I have a 12-point range, easily 15-point range and rising. Well, no, I have a 10 or 12-point range here during the information release. So quickly, where do I get my macro information to get an idea of what are the major events that are going to be moving the global markets or the U.S. markets? In this case, I use FinViz, which is a good site to get an idea of the macro events of the day. After I go through these macro events, I start to dig into my specific stocks. So I start to look for specific macro news and macro information on whatever stocks I happen to be following. And at that point I go get a coffee, basically, because I'm going to spend some time digging through the web, looking up any information that might be moving the stocks that I'm interested in today. So let's say I have Twitter and I have a butterfly spread on Twitter. What I'm going to do is start digging into my charts at this point, and I'm going to see that in my case I had a butterfly 29 or 30, 32, 35 butterfly. My ranges here are set up already. I can set alarms to these ranges so that when I break these alarms, this is where I need to react. I went into the trade around here, maybe a little higher, because I'm following the moving average down, and I am going to assume that there's more pressure, higher pressure above. But this is where I need to react. So I'm going to look at this one very closely, but I'm going to go over all of them first and decide which stocks I need to concentrate on later. And now after I've gone over my macro news, macro info, and I've started going to the technical, I'm going to start looking at the charts. So in this case, you saw Twitter. I'm going to note which stocks I have to go back to, but I'm going to go over everything first as early as possible. As I'm looking at my charts, I'm going to ask a series of questions. A lot of those questions I have written down. for myself so that I don't forget to ask them. After a period of time, it just gets obvious and easy, and you just ask them naturally. Have I broken my ranges? Am I reaching my targets? Are my stops still logically in place? Are my targets still right? I'm at a point where I need to ask, am I accumulating this stock or adjusting these options in a phase of accumulation or not? Is this a good day to add to the position? Is this a good day to exit the position? The answers to those questions will depend how I set up my trading plan for the day. One of the objectives with a trading routine is so that you basically automate your trading. What that means is that you don't automate it technically, but you know what you're going to do before you do it. Your objective is to know when you're going to be getting into and out of trades. So now that I have a basic idea of what I want to do with my trades, for example, Twitter, which you see moving up in the background, I'm going to decide here how I want to adjust this trade. Whether I want to sell some calls at a higher level, whether I want to buy more calls at the lower level. I'm going to adjust this trade based on what I think is going to happen. Is it going to hold this level? Do I wait another day? Do I think it's breaking out? Does it look like it's breaking out? If I think it's breaking out, I'm going to make adjustments, or I'm going to get out of the trade. Basically I know, or I'm setting up to know what I do over the course of the day. I don't want to have any surprises today. I have some time, so I'm going to let Twitter play itself out today before I make a decision, but I have an idea of what I want to do. Now that's it, basically. I've looked at all my charts, I've set up my plan for the day, and the day goes on. I adjust, I make my trades. Now it's the end of the day. What do I do at the end of the day? At the end of the day, I am going to do just a few things, and it may not be exactly what you expect. I'm going to reconfirm my levels on my charts. I'm going to adjust if the technical patterns have changed, and I'm going to spend basically the evening thinking about my potential readjustments for the next day. I'm going to confirm my accumulated risk over the day. I'm going to make sure that I'm falling within the risk percentage that I've set for myself based on how much money I'm playing with. With the options, it's a little more complicated, and with complicated spreads, it's also a little more complicated. You're going to be looking at Greeks for each individual option class. I happen to do this all through my trading platform. I don't do it on any sort of separate, within any sort of separate diary. I keep it all on my trading platform. Many of you would expect that you would look at P&L each day. I personally don't do this because I trade a lot of options, and options don't necessarily conform to the expectation that day traders might have, where you're all in and all out during the day. So I don't look at P&L every day. If you're trading futures market on a daily basis, you might, but I don't. So that's my trading routine. Thank you.